The void above Terra was never still. It pulsed with the heartbeat of humanity's billion prayers. Yet tonight it screamed. The Astronomican's golden light flickered, bending in impossible arcs as something tore through the skein of reality. Not a warp rift, no shrieking demons, no tides of madness, but a storm of color and warmth, swirling with hues no imperial augur could name. Gold like sunlight, crimson like blood, blue like hope. Deep within the palace, custards turned their helms to the heavens. Vox lines crackled with static. Anomaly detected above Segmentum's solar orbit, one voice whispered. It's alive. And then, with a sound that shook the throne world itself, the storm fell. Through the choking clouds and polluted sky, a comet of living fire streaked downward, cutting through spires of adamantium like parchment. The impact came in the Valley of Saints, an ancient courtyard lined with statues of heroes long since forgotten. When the dust cleared, a crater smoked at its center, glowing with otherworldly energy. From within it, a figure stirred, torn fabric, scorched skin, eyes closed in exhaustion, but around him, a halo of chakra like molten sunlight. The custards surrounded the pit, halberds drawn, their golden armor reflecting the storm still raging overhead. Identify yourself, one commanded, his voice like thunder in the silence. The stranger opened his eyes, blue, bright, defiant, impossibly alive, and when he spoke, his voice was soft but steady. Where am I? The custodian hesitated, momentarily struck by something human in that tone, but the moment passed. The stranger rose to his feet, barefoot on the cracked marble, wind swirling around him as though obeying a silent command. His hand reached instinctively for a headband that was no longer there, only the memory of home remained. He closed his eyes and whispered the word as if it were a prayer. Konoha. The custards advanced, forming a perfect circle of golden death. Every motion was a ritual, every breath a prayer to the Emperor. Yet as they stepped closer, the very air seemed to resist. The energy around the boy flared, 9 flickering tails of flame coiling faintly behind him. The custards felt it, not warp energy, but something older, purer, life force weaponized. Contain him, came the command through Vox relays, but containment was a dream. When the first halberd struck, it met not flesh, but a barrier of raw chakra that rippled the world like a pond. The custodian was thrown back, armor splitting at the seams. The others hesitated, something they had never done. The figure turned toward the massive gates of the imperial palace, the endless Gothic labyrinth that crowned humanity's dominion. He could feel it, a presence vast and ancient beyond words, something watching him, something measuring him. From deep within the palace, the Emperor's psychic light flared for the first time in centuries. It was as though a sun opened its eyes. Across Terra, psychers screamed and dropped dead in unison. The storm above the planet convulsed, shaped now by 2 wills, the golden light of the throne and the burning chakra of the intruder. Inside the crater, the boy staggered, clutching his head as visions struck him, a battlefield of iron and fire, a galaxy ruled by pain and worship. He saw men kneeling before a corpse god, saw planets burning in his name. He saw the cruelty of eternity, and he did not understand it. What is this place? He whispered, kneeling as tears mixed with blood. Why does it feel like everyone's already given up? The winds howled louder, carrying the echoes of 10,000 lost souls. In the darkness behind him, a custodian lowered his weapon, the faintest flicker of pity in his golden mask. The boy turned his gaze upward again. Above him, the storm of chakra was dying, its tendrils dissolving into the polluted night. He was alone, stranded in a galaxy without mercy. But somewhere high upon his throne, the Emperor's presence pressed against his mind. Cold, ancient, divine, and in that instant, the boy felt something terrifying: recognition. The Emperor's voice did not speak words, it thundered like the birth of stars. You are not of my making, yet I have seen your kind before. The boy's eyes widened. Who are you? And then the light retreated, leaving the sky quiet once more. Only the ashes of the storm remained, and the faint shimmer of chakra that refused to die. Above the silent ruins of the courtyard, the custards looked on as the stranger's body was lifted by teleportarium beams. Somewhere, deep in the vaults of the imperial palace, Mechanicus Magi were already chanting. They would study him, dissect him, learn his secret. But none of them knew what followed through the rift. None of them saw the shadow with 9 tails slip silently across the void, snarling at the golden light that burned too bright. And on Terra, the Emperor's eyes remained open. For the first time in 10,000 years. The air within Luna's inner sanctum was stale with the scent of oil and incense. Vast cathedral laboratories stretched beneath its surface, temples of logic and madness, where the Adeptus Mechanicus whispered to their machines as though they were gods. And at the heart of one, a single containment field pulsed with light unlike anything they had ever recorded. The figure within was bound in chains of psychic steel. He looked young, too young, mortal, fragile, yet around him, the air shimmered like the surface of a dying star. Servo skulls hovered in reverence, scanning, dissecting, recording data they barely understood. Biological readings are inconsistent. One Magos rasped through a choir of vox servitors. No mutation, no warp signature, yet infinite output. Another voice, mechanical and trembling with awe, added, "It is not of chaos, nor of the Emperor." Within the field, Naruto sat cross-legged on the cold floor. His breath was slow, steady, but his mind was a storm. Visions haunted him, a cratered world, its people afraid of their own gods. Chains, prayers, and the constant whisper of a name he did not yet understand, the Emperor. Every time he asked a question, the red-robed priests only tightened their hold. Hours bled into days. The chamber was silent, but for the hiss of incense burners and the hum of plasma coils. Naruto's chakra pulsed softly, like a heartbeat, but deep inside, another pulse answered, low, guttural, ancient. "You've been quiet too long," Naruto murmured into the silence. His eyes opened, gleaming faintly amber. And the world shook. The containment sigils screamed as the fox stirred. A spectral shape unfurled behind the glass, enormous, shadowed, its eyes burning with primal rage. The 9-tailed fox, the Kyuubi, loomed against the walls of the psychic cell, its fur rippling with chakra fire that warped the air itself. Magi fell to their knees, gibbering litanies to the Omnissiah as the glass began to melt. "Demon entity detected," a servitor shrieked. "Containment breach imminent." Naruto stood. His shadow lengthened across the steel floor as the fox's presence bled into the room. His voice was calm, yet every syllable carried thunder. "You don't get to chain my friend." He raised his hand, fingers curling into a sign lost to time. Chakra spiraled around him, radiant and pure, slamming against the containment field. Lightning arced across the chamber, illuminating the saints of machinery carved into the walls. The Magi screamed, scrambling to reinforce the seals, but the storm was already alive. The fox roared, and the warp roared back. Across Luna's orbit, astropathic channels went mad. Thousands of psychers burned alive, their minds flooded with visions of a colossal fox tearing at the veil between worlds. From the Eye of Terror to the black edges of the Segmentum Obscurus, the chaos gods stirred. Korn's laughter shook the void, a storm of brass and blood. Tzeentch's 1,000 eyes turned toward the anomaly, fascinated by its alien logic. Even Slanesh fell silent for a breath, for here was passion unlike any they had shaped. And from the depths of the warp, Nurgle's voice bubbled with glee. "Something new crawls in, something warm and bright. How long until it rots?" Inside the laboratory, Naruto's chakra had become unbearable. The floor cracked, the walls bent inward as though bowing to his will. His eyes glowed, blue now shot with molten gold. "I don't know who you people are," he said, voice trembling with fury, "but you don't get to hurt others for your answers." Then silence. In that stillness, the fox's snarl faded into something softer, almost proud. The glass shattered. A tidal wave of chakra tore through the sanctum, sweeping the robed priests into the walls. The seals ruptured, energy spilling into the noosphere, into the very data streams of the Mechanicus. It infected machines like a dream, not warp corruption, but something gentler, luminous, alive. From the shattered chamber, Naruto emerged, his cloak torn, his hair wild, eyes blazing like twin suns. Behind him, the spectral form of Kurama towered, its 9 tails swaying in slow rhythm. They walked together through the wreckage, surrounded by burning incense and flickering serverlights. Alarms blared. Custodian guard detachments were deployed from orbit, descending through the moon's silver dust. The Adeptus Mechanicus screamed warnings through their binary hymns. Contain the entity, it communes with the warp. But the warp wasn't fighting him, it was changing. For the first time in millennia, the Eye of Terror shivered not in hunger, but in confusion. The fox's chakra tangled with the Imperium, twisting it, warming it, purifying small pockets into something the chaos gods could not touch. The Emperor felt it from afar. His psychic flame wavered, not in weakness, but recognition. This power was not chaos. It was will, shaped by kindness, born of pain, fueled by purpose, something the Imperium had long forgotten. In the shattered ruin of Luna's sanctum, Naruto fell to one knee. The fox's energy faded back into his body, its voice echoing faintly in his mind. They will not understand you, boy. This is not our world. I don't need them to, Naruto breathed. I just need to find out why I'm here. Behind him, the stars flickered red. Somewhere beyond the void, laughter rolled across eternity, dark and delighted. The chaos gods had taken notice. And far below, on Terra's throne, the Emperor whispered a single word that shook the warp like a drumbeat. The void beyond the Eye of Terror trembled, a roiling sea of black flame and shifting stars. Across infinity, the chaos gods paused in their endless schemes. Khorne's skull-strewn throne rattled with impatience, yet his rage faltered at a sight unseen, a mortal wielding power untethered to the warp, yet bending it subtly, reshaping reality with the pulse of his own life force. Tzeentch's thousand eyes flickered in kaleidoscopic rhythm. Curious, he whispered, his voice layered over 1,000 tongues. This one he defies entropy, he molds energy with thought alone, fate itself quivers before him. The winds of change twisted, carrying visions, a boy in orange garb standing amidst demonic flames, the nine tails roaring behind him like a tempest unbound. Even Slaanesh, the dark whisperer of desire, paused. There was an allure in the boy's defiance, a beauty in the purity of his rage and compassion intertwined. And Nurgle, ever the silent observer of decay, felt the warmth of life where there should have been rot. The cosmos itself leaned closer, sensing a ripple that might rend or reshape the eternal dance of chaos. Back on Terra, Naruto's cloak whipped in a synthetic storm of machinery and psychic tension. His chakra flared outward like a sunburst, illuminating every curve of Luna's shattered sanctum and reaching across space to brush the dark edges of the warp. Yet even as he breathed, the visions clawed at his mind, twisted images of friends, torn and burning, whispers of familiar voices echoing through war-placed corridors. Naruto, the voices called, warped into agony and deceit. Naruto clenched his fists. His golden eyes flared as he faced the creeping despair. I won't let you take them. His voice rang across the void, carrying with it a weight that bent stars and shook astral echoes. The nine tails materialized fully, a towering apparition of orange and red, eyes molten with anger. Its tails whipped, each strike leaving burning rifts in reality. From the Eye of Terror, the Chaos Gods watched, their amusement twisting into something darker. Khorne leaned forward, brandishing an invisible axe of desire for carnage. A mortal defies the blood god himself, he rumbled. Tzeentch wove strands of possibility around the boy, calculating every permutation, every spark of hope and despair. Slaanesh's laughter echoed in unison with Nurgle's bubbling mirth, a chorus of cosmic curiosity and dread. Naruto stepped forward, chest heaving, the ground beneath him cracked by the raw pressure of his energy. The fox whispered in his mind, claws scratching against the warp like a phantom. They are watching, Naruto, they know your heart, and it terrifies them. He turned his gaze upward, past the shattered sanctum, past Luna's orbit, and into the obsidian sky where the Eye of Terror yawned like a wound in creation. Stars twisted into shapes unnatural, flames danced in impossible patterns, and the distant screams of worlds unmade echoed faintly across the void. He had no weapons but his body, his chakra, and his will. Yet in that instant, he understood. The gods themselves had drawn lines of attention toward him, and in doing so, had begun a game older than time. Naruto's voice, barely above a whisper, carried through the shattered vacuum. I won't be afraid. And somewhere, beyond mortal comprehension, the Chaos Gods smiled or snarled. The stage was set. The war between mortal determination and divine malevolence had begun. Yet the ultimate question hung in the air, trembling like a knife over his heart. Could a boy from another world, unshaped by this galaxy's horrors, stand against gods who had watched civilizations crumble for millennia? Golden light shattered the darkness of the imperial palace, crackling like a sun split in two. The throne room, a cathedral of obsidian and gold, stretched beyond perception, its arches vanishing into infinity. Naruto knelt at the threshold, eyes wide against the blinding radiance that did not burn, but pierced into the soul. The Emperor's presence radiated like a storm of thought and eternity, each pulse a hammer on the mind. The air itself seemed to tremble. Custards formed silent rings around the perimeter, their halberds lowered in awe, not defiance. Every psionic echo, every whisper of the warp recoiled at the Emperor's will. Yet amidst this perfection of divine order, the boy's energy surged, raw and untamed, the nine-tails chakra coiling around him in shimmering golden threads. Even the warp hesitated, a foreign light, untainted, seeking balance. You are not of this galaxy, the Emperor intoned, voice like iron wrapped in fire. Yet your soul carries weight, the weight of mercy and fury intertwined. His gaze penetrated Naruto, seeing the boy's life in flashes, bonds, dreams, pain, and unyielding determination. Your power is not granted by me, but it is strong, stronger than many mortals I have seen, stronger than some who call themselves gods. Naruto rose unsteadily, feeling the immense weight of a presence beyond comprehension. His chakra flared instinctively, responding to a challenge he did not fully understand. I didn't come here to fight, he said, voice trembling but firm. I just want to protect my friends, to protect what's right. The Emperor's golden aura wavered. For the first time in millennia, his psychic radiance did not dominate, it measured. And it faltered. Behind Naruto, the nine-tails stirred, responding not to commands but to instinct. Its enormous form shimmered with light and shadow, coiling behind him like a living storm. The Emperor's psychic probing touched the fox, and for a heartbeat even he recoiled. The creature's chakra resisted, ancient and sentient, a force of nature not yet tamed. A tension settled over the throne room like the pause before a storm breaks. Custards, halberds gleamed but did not move. Machines whirred but the rituals halted. The Emperor extended his will, reaching through psychic fire, seeking to understand, to measure, to dominate, and found resistance. Not from hate, not from malice, but from a raw, unshaped spirit that refused to bend. Naruto's voice cracked as he whispered, I won't let you control me. I'm not your tool. I'm not anyone's weapon. His chakra flared brighter, the golden aura of the nine-tails blending with his own light, a storm of life that even the Emperor could not extinguish. For a heartbeat, time itself seemed to shiver. The golden throne room faded, the stars outside paused in their cold march, and the warp itself held its breath. The Emperor's eyes, ancient beyond imagining, narrowed not in anger, but in recognition. You are human, he said finally, almost softly, yet within you resides the force of a god, perhaps more than I expected, perhaps more than the galaxy can bear. Naruto's gaze faltered for a moment. Behind him, the nine-tails growled low, its tails flicking like molten whips. The creature sensed something he did not, the delicate balance of life and power, the thin line between order and collapse. The Emperor raised his hand, golden lightning curling around it. You may walk freely for now, but know this, your path will be judged, by me, by your own choices, and by the forces that watch you even now. A silence fell. The throne room's light dimmed slightly, as though the cosmos exhaled. Naruto, breathing heavily, felt the enormity of the galaxy pressing upon him, an entire universe older, harsher, and far crueler than his own. And in that silence, one question burned brighter than the throne itself. Would his heart remain unbroken, or would the weight of this galaxy turn him into something the Emperor himself could not control? Terror burned, not with fire alone, but with the collision of worlds. The imperial palace shuddered under the force of a storm that was neither entirely warped nor entirely mortal. Naruto's chakra exploded outward in radiant arcs, each racing and spinning like a miniature sun, tearing at the warp's fabric and ripping open fractures that leaked demonic whispers. The nine-tails surged behind him, its massive form now fused with the warp itself, tails ablaze with brass and fire, eyes molten with wrath and sorrow. Custards clashed with demonic echoes, golden armor splintering against claws that should not exist in the material plane. Bolters roared, litanies screamed, and the air vibrated with the weight of psychic warfare. Yet Naruto moved through it all like a living beacon, Rasengan after Rasengan cleaving through the impossible, reshaping the battlefield with sheer will. Every step left scorch marks in reality, a trail of light where despair had once reigned. The demons recoiled but did not yield. A towering chaos-spawn demon, crowned with writhing brass horns and burning eyes, lunged. Naruto met it without hesitation, spinning Rasengan into its chest. The explosion sent a shockwave tearing through the palace halls, shattering stained glass windows etched with saints' faces. The creature howled, a scream that echoed both in the warp and the material realm, before dissolving into ash that smelled faintly of ozone and blood. Yet every victory birthed new horrors. The Nine Tails, now part warp, part living beast, thrashed against Naruto's control, each movement creating ripples that warped reality further. Naruto's breath came in ragged gasps. His heart pounded, not just with the effort of battle, but with fear of losing control, fear of harming what he swore to protect. Every friend he had ever loved flashed before his eyes, distorted and twisted by the warp's corruption. In the middle of the chaos, he caught a glimpse of the Emperor's golden gaze piercing through the smoke and ruin, watching, not intervening, merely observing. "Control your power," a voice thundered in his mind, simultaneously warmth and judgment, "or all you love will be consumed." Naruto's eyes narrowed. "I won't let that happen," he muttered. His chakra blazed brighter, forming a sphere of blinding light, Rasengan upon Rasengan orbiting him like satellites of justice. The Nine Tails growled, testing the boundaries of this fragile control. Naruto extended his hand, reaching deep into its essence, not to dominate but to commune. "We fight together," he whispered. The fox's eyes met his, amber flames melding with gold. With that bond forged, Naruto leapt forward into the heart of the demon's swarm, Rasengan spinning like a sunburst, tearing a path through impossibility itself. The warp groaned in fury, yet the chaos gods could only watch, fascinated and enraged in equal measure. From the shattered spires of the imperial palace, reality warped and bent, painting a tableau of madness and hope intertwined. And in the center of it all, Naruto stood, cloak tattered, eyes burning with defiance and compassion, flanked by a Nine Tails who had become part guardian, part weapon, and entirely unstoppable. The question now was not whether he could survive. It was whether Terra, the galaxy, and even the chaos gods themselves could survive him. A shadow of doubt slithered across the battlefield. Every mind in orbit, mortal or godlike, felt it. The boy was no longer just a visitor. He was a force that might remake the galaxy or destroy it. And somewhere, in the silence beyond the void, the Emperor's golden eyes lingered on the storm. For the first time in millennia, even he wondered, had he just witnessed salvation or the birth of a new god? Silence fell like a blade across the smoking ruins of Terra. The sky above the imperial palace was torn in half, streaked with blood-red auroras and the faint glow of dissipating warp storms. Naruto stood at the epicenter, his cloak tattered and singed, chest heaving, eyes blazing gold with the coiled power of the Nine Tails finally calmed, or perhaps merely waiting. Around him, the remnants of custards and demonic echoes alike lay frozen in awe, the battlefield suspended in a fragile equilibrium between light and madness. Above the golden throne, the Emperor's psychic presence reached out, vast and unyielding, yet tempered with something new, curiosity, perhaps even admiration. He did not descend, he did not strike. He simply extended his will, threading it delicately around the boy's spirit, touching the raw fire within Naruto without quenching it. For a heartbeat, two forces, one eternal, one mortal, intertwined, and the galaxy itself seemed to pause. Naruto felt it, the weight of millennia, the judgment of gods, the unspoken questions of every soul in the Imperium. His chest tightened, not with fear but with clarity. He could feel the lives of billions in one pulse, the currents of the warp twisting faintly in response to his own heartbeat. He understood then that this confrontation was not about dominance. It was about choice. The Nine Tails shifted behind him, its immense form rippling with residual warp energy. It had tasted the corruption, had glimpsed the hunger of the chaos gods, yet it had not succumbed. Together, boy and beast exhaled, and the energy around them shimmered, bending reality like light through water. The demons, the shattered custards, even fragments of the warp itself recoiled, as if recognizing a power beyond comprehension. And then the final moment arrived. Naruto lifted his gaze to the Emperor standing not defiant but resolute. Their wills met in silence, a conversation older than words. For one heartbeat, the galaxy was neither burning nor dying. It was still, it waited. And in that stillness, a single truth emerged. The boy had survived the judgment, yet the universe had not yet decided what he would become. When the light faded, the battlefield lay quiet. Smoke drifted over broken spires, and the stars above Terra blinked uncertainly. The golden throne remained immovable, its occupant eternal. But at its base, draped across the obsidian steps, lay a single orange cloak, tattered, scarred, yet unmistakably alive. Was this victory, or the prelude to something far greater? Had humanity been saved, or had a new god been born in their midst? And somewhere in the far reaches of the warp, Korn snarled, Tzeentch calculated, Slanesh sighed, and Nurgle bubbled, each sensing that the game had changed forever. The galaxy held its breath, and a boy from another world, once a stranger, now stood at the edge of eternity, wondering whether his next step would forge salvation or apocalypse.